So I found this video today. It's by a guy named Pada, and it's about gaming journalism. And honestly, it was a good thumbnail. Oftentimes I say this, good thumbnails often catch my attention, and this was one of them. This video is called "The Rise and Fall of Gaming Journalism: What Happened." So here's the thing with this: is I don't think there has been a fall in gaming journalism. I think what has actually happened here is it's just changed. But I want to hear what he has to say, and we can kind of discuss what has happened here. But in the background image, you can all see all of these kind of like gaming magazines, which has completely changed and completely fell. So let's see
Gaming journalism isn't
what he
what it
says.
once was. In fact, just mentioning the words gaming journalism these days seems to only provoke negative reactions. This is how
Wait,
badly these companies have damaged their own reputation. Negative. Mentioning the words gaming journalism these days seems to only provoke
What is going on there?
negative reactions. This is how badly these companies have damaged their own reputation. Almost every week, I see the same sentence pop up somewhere online that says, remember,
IGN reviews suck. Oh no, that's not what it says.
you don't hate gaming journalists enough. Whether it's in the comment section on a YouTube video, or a Facebook or Instagram post, or even on X, gamers seem to be unified in his thoughts across the internet. It's a clear sign that gamers genuinely wouldn't mind if the majority of gaming journalism outlets just disappeared at this point.
Memes.
Gamers used to love the likes of IGN, for example, because it felt like they were one of us. But now to see them...
So there's a big reason behind this, which I'm assuming we will get into
off a lot more of their staff this month has sparked some interesting reactions online. A large part of the gaming community celebrated this as if this result is a form of justice, whereas another portion of the gaming community were saddened by the idea that the IGN they once loved has allowed itself to fall this far. So how did we get here? How is it that gaming journalists, much like many...
Okay, so I will tell you this right now. The problem with these gaming outlets, so like a lot of these, like IGN, like Screen Rant, Game Rant, you need to realize how large those companies are. Like Screen Rant, for example, is one of the most viewed websites, period. They are putting out hundreds of articles a day. It's just pure, just overwhelming amount of content. It's actually
gaming companies have become so disconnected from their audience that it's come to this. Let's rewind for a second to what a lot of us remember as the golden age of gaming journalism. Back then, gaming magazines like Nintendo Power, PC Gamer, and Game Informer weren't just magazines.
Those were the days.
They were a gateway into the world we loved. They had this unique way of connecting with us, speaking a language that every gamer just understood.
So I remember when I used to go to like doctor's offices and stuff as a kid, if I would go in and they'd have one of these magazines on the table, it was like the only way I was getting through that waiting period.
And spoke themselves. This was especially important at the time because of how niche gaming was in most households.
That is also true.
I'll never forget those moments when my mom would arrive back from her monthly grocery shop. I'd race to the car because I knew she'd picked up a copy of either the PC format...
You have the coolest mom ever!
...the NAG magazine for me. Your South African variants of gaming magazines.
I don't know
it was
what
such
NAG
a
is.
small thing, but my mom knew that it made me happy for the rest of the week.
Aww.
I was hooked on those magazines. Over time, I'd even figure out which of the writers had the same taste in games as me, and I'd always look out for their names in these magazines. Gaming journalists used to deliver an amazing experience that a lot of us will always remember. When the internet took over, sites like IGN, GameSpot, and GameFAQs kept the energy alive. They weren't just about reviews and news, they were about community.
I was going to say forums. I was literally just going to say a lot of these websites eventually became forums.
Always buzzing with debates, walkthroughs, and theories.
Man, I haven't seen so many of these in so long.
Gamers talking to gamers, because that's exactly what it was. It wasn't just about the games, it was about the culture. That era was about celebrating games. Big events like E3 felt magical, where developers, journalists, and players...
So again, events like this happen, maybe not on the same level as E3, but we have like Summer Game Fest and
came
things like
together
this.
to share in the excitement of announcements and reveals. It was a time when the line between fans and journalists was blurred, because at the end of the day, journalists were gamers too. But like all golden ages, it didn't last forever. By the 2010s, cracks started to show. Traffic became the priority and sensationalism took over. Why? Because ad revenue now relied on clicks. And when your business model depends on clicks, trust and quality often disappear.
So this is exactly what I was talking about. The amount of articles, the amount of pieces of content that are put out by these huge publications are you can't see all of
News,
them.
reviews, and entertainment were no longer the product. You and I became the product. The majority of news outlets, not just gaming journalists, quickly learned that sensationalism equals profit. And where there's
it's still like
sensationalism,
that.
there is disconnect. It wasn't just clickbait though. There was also this new phenomenon of first come, first served. Instead of publishing a monthly magazine where journalists could spend more time refining and crafting something thought-provoking and entertaining, a never-ending rat race began. Companies now competed to get previews, reviews, and news out faster than the competition. Articles started feeling rushed, and reviews were becoming increasingly more disconnected from gamers. It was clear
it's not
that
who has the best review, it's who has the quickest review. One person that I think does incredibly well with this is Skill Up. His reviews are incredibly good. They're not always often the first ones out, but because they're good and he has a team of people working on them, whether that be editors or other people doing the reviews themselves, they can actually take time and craft a really good review. And it's not just the garbage that IGN puts out.
Didn't feel like it was gamers talking to gamers anymore. Now, a lot of people have grown so tired of this. Just look at the recent reviews around Concord. Self-proclaimed critics gave this game a 7 out of 10 or even an 8 out of 10, while literally the entire gaming community rejected this game into oblivion. Saying these reviews felt out of touch is an understatement. There is so obviously a disconnect between these journalists.
Okay, so I didn't play Concord, but what I heard is like it was actually not that bad. Like I heard that the gameplay mechanics were actually okay. It was just like the game couldn't get any traction because there was nothing like that could grab your attention in it.
If you are who I think you are, you should give me another chance.
I don't think we're alike at all.
Then there's the issue of access journalism. Game publishers started controlling the narrative more aggressively, using embargoes and restrictions to shape coverage. If a journalist criticized a game, they risked losing early access or exclusives in the future. And when you're in a state of competing for clicks, losing that access can be devastating for your company. So do you tell the truth and risk backlash from the publishers? Or do you play it safe and lose credibility with your readers? Definitely not an easy decision. This disconnect has definitely brought a major shift over the years. As trust in traditional outlets faded, a lot of gamers turned to...
Yeah, because they turn to individuals, because when you go to a place like IGN, there's like 300 or 500 writers doing all of these articles. How can you trust one? It's hard enough to trust one person you might disagree with, let alone 300 of them.
To the reviews and opinions of YouTubers. Creators like Angry Joe and the amazing Total Biscuit felt authentic. They didn't need publisher approval, and they weren't afraid to tell it like it is. If a game was broken, they'd call it out. If it was great, you can tell their praise was genuine.
Like this probably is like probably one of the greatest games I ever played in my whole life. It's just so good. It's so good, man.
That's always cool to see.
Man, stop, man, stop. I hate this game, bro.
Now, this raises a big question.
I've done that a few
Why
times.
do companies like IGN still have an audience? If you've watched my previous videos, you
Because look at how much content they freaking put out. It's like it's SEO. If your article or whatever gets enough SEO, it's going to get promoted by algorithms and people are going to see it.
know that I'm just a casual gamer. I don't always have time to sit down and actually play games, let alone dive into the drama around gaming journalism. So let's say I see a game advertised from a franchise I loved as a kid or teenager, or from a company I used to praise and trust. Naturally, I would want to go where I've always gone for insight on these games. IGN, PC Gamer, or Game Informer. And honestly, most casual gamers would probably stop their research right there. How do I know this? Because most of my friends, who are dads, husbands, accountants, financial advisors, tradesmen...
Honestly, I kind of actually disagree with this. I think like all of my friends that just like casually pick up games, either one, see trailers and they're like, yeah, that's for me. Like the Hogwarts game comes to mind. Or it's all word of mouth, right? Like one friend picks up a game. Like the example I can give for you is Stardew Valley. I played Stardew Valley years ago. And then I went out to a Christmas party with all my friends, and I'm like, dude, I've been playing Stardew Valley every day for 10 hours a day for weeks straight. You guys need to check out this game. And all of them did, because it's like I don't think the casual person necessarily relies on IGN and stuff like that. In fact, I think that would be a much more entrenched person in the gaming community that would actually rely on those. I could be wrong though.
And just generally busy guys still read and trust IGN, simply because they always have. Although the funny thing is, some of them have actually now stopped reading IGN because of what happened with Dragon Age: The Veil Guard. I have a good friend who grew up loving the Dragon Age series. Years later, a new sequel, The Veil Guard, was announced, and he got pretty excited. Ahead of launch, he checks IGN's reviews and he sees a 9 out of 10. Now bear in mind, he does not keep up with the politics behind any of this stuff, because he is simply a very busy guy. Now, this confirms his excitement. There are no warnings, no caveats, just another Dragon Age with a 9 out of 10 from IGN.
And
so the game launches, and he finally gets to play it. And he is obviously blindsided. The game does not live up to its predecessors. It even feels like the developers sacrificed the gritty story writing.
Also, like, in my mind, do you know how good a 9 out of 10 is? Like, let's just talk about that for a second. Do you know there's like 3 games ever I would give a 10 out of 10 to. One of which is Stardew Valley, by the way. 3 ever. What? And then you're giving this Dragon Age Veilguard a 9 out of 10. That game has to be damn good to get a 9 out of 10.
Just to push a progressive.
To be clear, I don't even think I give like Skyrim a 9 out of 10.
Like agenda like in a very heavy-handed, cringe-worthy way.
So I'm non-binary.
And IGN gave it a higher review score than any of the previous titles.
Yeah,
a lot of these big outlets have obviously let people down, and more gamers are starting to look elsewhere for honest opinions. So where does that leave us? Is gaming journalism gonna eventually disappear? I don't think it will, but I do believe gamers are finally holding these companies accountable. I do believe as gaming journalism has declined, we have definitely seen a rise in trusted YouTubers and indie creators who are doing something traditional outlets struggle with. They embrace the difficult conversations around gaming, and a lot of them do it well. Let's face it, games aren't a one-size-fits-all. What I love about a game might be
great game. Second of all, I've never played a Sims game. Never. I don't know how they work, what they're like. This game, however, 10 out of 10 right there.
What you hate about it. And that's fine. Independent creators own their biases. When they rave about a game, it feels like a recommendation from a fellow gamer, not some detached, objective...
Well, do you remember what I just said about getting recommendation from a friend? That's more so what like a YouTuber or gaming personality kind of feels like. You built a rapport with this person, and then they're giving you their opinion on it, right?
Critic. And that honesty, it resonates. On top of that, creators build communities. They're in the comments, hosting live streams, and engaging with their audience in ways traditional outlets just don't anymore. That direct connection is a big reason why so many gamers are turning to independent content creators for their reviews and insights. So, what does the future of gaming journalism look like? The truth is, it's unclear, but one thing is for sure. The old model of sensationalism, clickbait headlines, and ignoring what the audience really cares about is fading fast. Gamers are tired of feeling like we're being sold something that is not genuine. We want transparency, we want honesty, and we want to feel connected to the people reviewing our favorite games. As a gamer, I have to say the worst thing I've seen gaming journalists do is turn on the core audience and paint us as villains. Instead of engaging with the community, some journalists have chosen to throw accusations at gamers, stating we are the problem with the gaming industry. Gaming journalism won't disappear.
Yeah, I mean, so like there's things that I have done like this where it's like, okay, Call of Duty has obviously a microtransaction issue. The problem is people keep buying it. Well, yeah, but like clearly if people are buying it, there's some perceived value behind that thing. So what am I missing when I look at this, right?
But it will have to evolve. The outlets that survive will be the ones that understand the shift and reconnect with their audience. It's not just about getting the first scoop anymore. It's about providing real, thoughtful coverage that respects the community and acknowledges the diverse opinions within it. It's gotten to the point that when outlets like PC Gamer might actually produce thoughtful content that raises valid points, no one cares anymore. They automatically face backlash from the internet due to the reputation they've built over time. The recent article on Path of Exile 2 was a prime example of this. Readers see the headline and they immediately assume it's a bad article. But this is a completely self-induced problem.
Path of Exile 2 is great, but can't match the dopamine hit of a good Diablo 4 loot drop. I haven't played Path of Exile 2, but from what I hear, it's a lot better than Diablo 4.
And this is the consequences. The rise of independent creators and YouTubers shows us what gaming journalism could become. More personal, more honest, and more connected to the audience. These creators are giving a voice to the gamers, and they are filling a gap left by the big outlets that became more concerned with clicks than delivering real value. It's a new era, and if traditional outlets want to stay relevant, they'll need to adapt or risk being left behind. As for gamers,
how do you adapt though? Like, I think the only way to do that is stop putting out these mass articles. And like the first click journalism that he was talking about needs to be put on the back burner. But that's what those companies thrive off of. So that's not going to work. And by the way, one thing that I do know from behind the scenes is a lot of these large companies like IGN, Screen Rant, Gaming Rant, their articles that they put out are not by actual employees. They essentially have contractors that they will give articles to write, and they'll get paid per article. They're not even salaried employees. A lot of people don't know that.
We're starting to take control. We're demanding better, and most importantly, we're holding these companies accountable. Thank you everyone for watching, and a very special thank you to my Patreons. If you're keen to look into my Patreon, do check.
Yeah, like, so I don't think gaming journalism is dead at all. I just think that it's changed. It's become the things that do well are the ones that are more personalized from people that you can trust and build a rapport with. These like you're not going to see an IGN review go viral, but you might see a Skill Up review go viral, or any of these other characters or personalities go viral. But an IGN review just isn't going to. The things that go viral on IGN now is when they repost a trailer. And that's just because people want to see the trailer, not like the actual people behind it. So that's my opinion on it, and that's where I see it moving forward, is just more personalized. And generally speaking, I find higher effort things over the long term do better. More editing, more views, eventually. And that doesn't always work. And yes, the first click is still a thing, but I'm personally trying to get away from that because that puts quantity over quality in a huge way, and I'm not a fan of that. But yeah, what do you think? Gaming journalism. Did you used to get the magazines? That's what I actually want to know. Did anyone here used to get the magazines? Or when games would come out, would you get like the guidebooks? Would you ever get the one that I remember? I think it was Ocarina of Time was the one that like I grew up. I think it was that one. I'd have to look it up, but yeah. Did you ever get any of those? That's my question for you on this one.